starts now.
An ever-changing digital world, 95% of teens report using some form of social media, but there's growing research that puts its use into question and the impact that it might have on their mental health during critical stages of development. So what's actually being done to protect children? Mental health awareness is today's big story. Well, a massive judgment against the parent company of Instagram and Facebook over online safety. Meta has been ordered to pay New Mexico more than $500 million. And much of that money will be used for mental health services for young people allegedly harmed by using its social media platforms. Here's ABC's Sophie Flay.
In a landmark ruling, a New Mexico judge has ordered Meta, the parent company of Facebook and Instagram, to pay $567 million after the company was found liable for helping fuel the state's youth mental health crisis. That's in addition to the $375 million a jury ordered Meta to pay earlier in the case, bringing the total to nearly $1 billion. Most of the money will go toward mental health and addiction treatment services. The case stems from a lawsuit by New Mexico's Attorney General, accusing Meta of misleading the public about the safety of its platforms and failing to protect children from online predators.
In every one of the documents that we've gone through, Meta saw what was happening to kids.
Meta's lawyers pushed back.
Meta isn't hiding anything about the risks of the platforms. It discloses them everywhere.
The ruling says Meta intentionally used features such as endless scrolling, autoplay, notifications, and content recommendations to keep users on its platforms longer. Finding those features played a role in higher rates of depression, eating disorders, and suicide risk among young people. The court also said the platforms contributed to child sexual exploitation.
What the judge is saying is Meta is like a factory that pollutes, and the pollution is the sexual exploitation and the mental health harm.
Meta vowed to appeal, writing, "We work hard to keep people safe on our platforms and have been transparent about the challenges of identifying and removing bad actors and harmful content. We remain confident in our record of protecting teens online." Sophie Flay, ABC News, New York.
Now, that topic also bringing up concerns about parental controls and what children and teens are actually exposed to when they use the internet. From social media apps to video games and now AI chatbots, information is out there that could be harmful to your children. I spoke with a cybersecurity expert who says while parental controls are good, when it comes to chatbots like ChatGPT, anything goes. And children need to be smart about any advice coming from a machine.
You really have to elevate their critical thinking skills. Because frankly, where AI chatbots are concerned, you can't add guardrails. You can't add isolation. They're going to get to the artificial intelligence chatbot in some way, shape, or form, and they're going to use it. So isolation techniques just don't work, is the point. And so it's a matter of joining forces with them and being a friend with them and getting them to realize that, hey, wait a minute. This is not a real human that you're talking to. It does not have real knowledge.
Meanwhile, from actors to singers, a growing list of celebrities are stepping away to protect their mental health, and it's sparking a conversation in taking care of your own well-being before it's too late. ABC's Will Gans has that story.
Somebody save me.
He once asked for someone to save him. And now country music star Jelly Roll is stepping back to save himself. Jelly Roll announced he's taking a Mentee B from performing for a year or two. It comes after months of personal and professional changes.
I am not okay.
The I Am Not Okay singer has long put his mental health front and center.
I represent overcoming. I represent the guy that wasn't supposed to make it, making it. And I think that's how we all feel sitting at home, right? Is that there's like this glimmer of hope when a guy like me makes it through the cracks.
But the artist is not alone in prioritizing himself. Ariana Grande said she'll be taking a step back from the public eye. Her representatives telling ABC News the break will come after her Eternal Sunshine tour, following the, quote, endless ongoing public scrutiny. The star reclaiming control of the narrative.
It's a plan that I had quietly made a long time ago, and it's a decision that was made from a thoughtful and empowered place.
And another baddie. Megan Thee Stallion also took a step back after an onstage incident while performing in the Broadway production of Moulin Rouge. The rapper writing in a post after the episode, "I've been pushing myself past my limits lately, running on empty, and my body finally said enough." The scrutiny celebrities face only growing since social media and its trolls took over.
Well, right now, celebrities are under more pressure than ever before. They can't ignore the comment section. They can't ignore their community. that pressure is placed on them. So even if they're struggling, they get blamed for their struggling.
Studies show millennials are more likely to talk about their mental health compared to generations before, which means big-name artists opening up may hopefully influence a positive generational step for mental health advocacy.
It's extremely beneficial when celebrities talk about mental health because they have platforms that are much more wide than any clinician could possibly have. And that allows most people to feel as if, okay, I'm okay to ask for help too.
Meanwhile, another celebrity sparking discussions about mental health, celebrity gossip blogger Perez Hilton, hospitalized just this week after appearing to harm himself on a TikTok live stream. His family now saying that he's receiving medical care. And while the video's been taken down, psychologists say it may hit closer to home than parents realize. Doctors say 17% of kids will engage in self-harm behavior.
It's just scary. It's a scary, bloody situation of somebody engaging in self-harm. For kids or adults who may have engaged or are engaging in self-harm behavior, it can be triggering because of the talk about self-harm.
Well, he says that same conversation is actually an opening for parents.
Did you see that video on TikTok? Do you know what self-harm is? Do you have friends who've ever done it? Have you ever thought about doing it? And do it in a way that is not accusatory, but that really reflects the reality, which is there is a chance that your child has engaged in it.
Now, if that conversation reveals something serious, doctors say do not wait. Get help. And doctors say with the new school year just about to start, making sure your children are physically and mentally healthy is especially important. Anxiety, not uncommon, but sometimes that anxiety comes with physical signs like a stomach ache or a headache, waking up late, or simply avoiding social activities. Pediatricians say recognizing the signs is the first step, along with talking to your children about their feelings. Experts say the dialogue reinforces the importance of showing up.
Any attendance is better than no attendance when it comes to school anxiety. And it's so tempting as a parent to say, oh, okay, we'll take a mental health day today, and you'll kind of gather your strength and be able to go tomorrow, when actually that reinforces the anxiety and makes it even harder to go the next day.
Experts say parents may also want to bring in a mental health support person, a therapist or a psychologist, to help your child work through the emotions and build confidence. There are also a number of local mental health services to help both children and adults. Just last week, a new mental health facility marked its grand opening in Maumee. Therapeutical Wellness Center offers a variety of behavioral health options through in-office visits and telehealth sessions. Staff say they hope to offer a safe and supportive environment where patients feel comfortable talking about their mental health. There's also the Zeph Center in Toledo. Its HOPE program just got a big funding boost. That program connects those who are homeless or unhoused that have mental health or substance abuse challenges to care and support that they need. And the American Medical Association says more people are reaching out for mental health support, with an increase of calls to 988. That's the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, which provides free, confidential support 24/7. Callers can also connect to a mental health professional. The Lucas County Mental Health and Recovery Services Board also has a local crisis line that you can call or text. We have a link to that and other mental health resources posted right now on 13abc.com. Well, there are some simple things that you can do to help reduce anxiety and stress. One way is hugging. Scientists at the Cleveland Clinic say giving someone a hug releases oxytocin, that feel-good chemical that helps you bond with people. It also reduces cortisol, a stress hormone. A study a few years ago found that hugging is better at reducing stress in women than men. And effective hugs, they can run anywhere from 5 to 10 seconds. But there's something important to keep in mind.
Be mindful that not everyone enjoys hugs. So if this is someone around you, a friend or family member, know that touching their hand, rubbing their back can be just as effective as giving a warm hug.
Doctors say it's also best to ask people whether they actually need a hug or if they're okay receiving one before you jump on in. And we know spending time outdoors can also give your brain a boost. A recent study found being in spaces like the forest, the park, or gardens can actually lower anxiety, depression, and your heart rate. Even just being near water can help you relax and improve your mood. If you add in some exercise, it'll release those feel-good hormones that can help you be happier, acting as a natural antidepressant. And researchers say 2 simple words can go a long way in helping your mental health and that of others. Thank you. Practicing gratitude releases serotonin and dopamine, those feel-good chemicals. The one study found 1 act of gratitude can up happiness by 10% and reduce symptoms of depression by 35%. Experts say making it a habit counters the brain's natural negativity bias and actually can increase your sense of well-being. So there are a lot of layers here to addressing mental health, and it's a topic affecting a lot of people. We have posted resources on our website and on the free 13 Action News app.